Life does not stop and start at your convenience, you miserable piece of shit.
Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up! Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is morning somewhere!
Oh my God.
For June 10th, 2024.
Do you do this to all your guests? Just start out by yelling at them at the top of your voice.
Hey everybody, it's Bernie. Sitting right over there. I'm looking right at him.
Your old pal, Matt Hullum.
It's Matt Hullum himself, everybody.
I lost my hearing at the beginning of this podcast.
Well, Matt, I can't think of a better way for you to tell everyone that you've never listened to my podcast. So thank you for that. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great.
For those of you who do
great.
not know, I have worked with Matt since 1996. Is that right? 97?
I was thinking the other day, we met when I was 19. So we've known each other 30 years now.
Yeah, I had Scott. By the way, you got an easy day today. I had Scott on literally the episode before you. Squirrel. He was on. So
Oh my God.
you're great. You're like, everyone will be like, oh, thank God.
Well, that kind of sucks though, because I was hoping we could talk about 9/11 today.
That's exactly what he talked about.
Did you guys cover that?
No, we covered some of it. I mean, it
Well, there's a
depends.
lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot to unpack.
Let's dive into it.
But we met so that would have put us in 1994. That's not possible.
Yeah.
30 years? 94?
Yeah.
So listen, should we say how we met?
I don't remember it being anything. It was at TSTV.
Yeah,
And I remember the first thing you thought about me, I was a fucking idiot. I remember that.
that's not exactly
You
right.
didn't say it to my face.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I also thought you smelled like bologna.
That's because that's all I had to eat in college. You know, I was a poor college student. I would carry bologna around in my backpack.
This is the University of Texas. Matt was a film student.
I was attractive to the rats and the bats because they could smell the bologna on them. And attractive to Bernie Burns apparently too.
Well, and look at your pathway.
Like rodents, think alike.
Because you were in the Department of Communications. That's where I met you as an undergrad.
Yep.
And now, what's your affiliation, or your at least at one point your affiliation with the Department of Communications at the University of Texas at Austin?
I bought it. It wasn't a good investment. I sold it back to them. There was too much McConaughey.
You know, do you remember that little
was
plaster
filthy
of
with
Paris
McConaughey.
sculpture that was in the roof of TSTV, like hanging from the ceiling? That was
Oh,
me
man.
when I was in 6th grade, and I didn't have anywhere to store it because I lived it with you in an apartment.
That old apartment near the river. You know what's so crazy? Like that was such a prime location, and we were too stupid to know because it was a shithole apartment.
Absolute shithole.
But if you think about it now, that's all where they're redeveloping Austin and selling those properties as like expensive or turning them into high rise fancy apartments or whatever. And back then it was just like broken down cars everywhere, and it was a complete mess. And our apartment cost. Do you remember how much it cost? The one we had, the 2-bedroom we had together.
The first one or the second one?
I believe there was a $25 price increase.
It was a bump. Was it? You tell me.
I remember it being $630.
Okay, I had it about 700 in my head.
Yeah.
And it was a
went up.
decent size too.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was really nice. It had that bizarre green carpet. You remember that?
And there's somewhere in my stuff there's a Polaroid of you and me eating pizza on the floor because we didn't have any furniture.
Yes.
And then we splurged.
Yes. And we bought that $25 couch.
From somebody across the parking lot, and we walked it across the entire parking lot.
I don't think my kids will ever do that in their life. They will never buy a sofa from a guy half a mile down the road and carry the sofa in their hands half a mile to their apartment. That
Probably not.
That won't happen. That was a different era.
We were a transitional generation.
Yeah.
And you had your 1968 Volkswagen Bug?
It was was that the year? That might have been it.
I'm guessing there.
We had so many Volkswagen Bugs and Volkswagen campers and things in my family. We had a Jetta. We had like all those old Volkswagens. We had many of. So I don't remember exactly which one that was, but we had a bunch of them.
You know my favorite story about your dad is while we're talking about austerity.
Oh,
at a young
I
age?
think I do know. I think I do.
Go ahead, go there. Let's see if you can guess it.
That he never wanted to have
Anything.
He had a policy. He didn't want to have more stuff than he could fit in a Volkswagen.
Right.
And I think the mattress would just have to go on the roof of the car or something like, but he didn't want enough, if he had more stuff at any one point, then he could fit in a tiny, little Volkswagen Bug. He was overdoing it. That was too much, pull eject.
But then he started dating your mom.
I guess.
Well, she was the one who said, you got to have a mattress.
You got to
right?
have a mattress.
So he bought a mattress.
Yeah.
And then, as I recall, as the story went, he had buyer's remorse the next day. He panicked about having
That's right.
a mattress.
I think he would do that
and
a lot.
returned it.
I think he would do that a lot.
Because it was too much. It defied his philosophy.
And you're lucky I didn't try to return that couch. You would have to walk a half mile back for your $12.50 share.
But my dad was the same way. So my dad, I always kind of used him as like a watermark for me. And I'm past it now. But my dad left the priesthood when he was about 42 years old, somewhere in there. And when he left, he had nothing. And I found out later, not only did he have nothing, he owed his former vestry, he owed them for his clothes. Like, can you believe that?
Well, they're really nice.
Clothes, I'm sure they were great.
That collar is sharp.
He doesn't get to keep the collar, bud.
That's a fashion statement.
He didn't get to keep the collar.
Man,
Did
you get a refund?
You know what's interesting about it too? He technically, you can't leave the priesthood. So technically he was a priest his entire life. What he lost was his ability to perform mass, which is the closest thing that you could get to not being a priest anymore.
But wasn't he a physics professor or physics teacher?
No, yeah.
So he found a new kind of mass.
Yeah. Mass with a small M. I like we're making dad jokes about dads. That's as meta as it gets right there. But we're getting away from something.
I'm not trying not to beat that joke up.
We're getting away from How I Met You.
Oh, okay. Sounds like the intro to a sitcom.
No, a little bit. Well,
okay. Tell me.
Listen, we've known each other so long. You have to have these little things of like little points here and there. I taught you how to edit. I taught your editing class.
That's true. You did. Was that the very first time?
I think that's how we met each other. Yeah.
And that was on the AB roll.
Yeah. Which if you're not born in like 1955, an AB roll was how we used to edit stuff. In fact, it was a big deal to get a non-linear editor, which is how everyone edits today. Like your phone has that on it now, where you just have digital clips and you put them together. We had tapes, and you had an A and a B tape, basically. And then you had a master tape going out the other side.
And it was great to learn from you because I was a sophomore. I hadn't been at UT very long. And you'd already been there for 10 years.
That's true. I was undergrad for about 6.5 years total. So listen, if you're,
some people like school.
Well, it was easier to do that when each semester at UT cost about $500.
Yeah.
I think now it costs what? Like 20 grand a semester there? Who knows?
You know what you should do? If you're young, you're there now, and the rising cost is weighing you down, just carry around some bologna.
Just go down to the basement.
That's what I did.
Of Hog Auditorium.
Actually, you know what I miss from UT is those little taco stands. Remember those taco stands? That the meat was completely unidentifiable.
Yep.
I never knew what the meat
carts.
Was. And the carts. There were carts, and you would be walking down Dean Keaton, which I think was still called 26th back then, right?
Yep.
And there was one over there, but near the engineering building. And there was one sometimes over on Guadalupe near Tower Records, which is that's a what is
gone now. And even the Gap is gone now.
It's like a clothing shop or something now.
Is that what it is?
I'm not sure. But you would go by those, and if you needed a quick bite, it was like $1.50 for a taco. And no matter what you said, chicken, beef, pork, shrimp, whatever, it was just mystery meat.
Yeah. So it was like the size of a hot dog cart.
Yeah.
But it had the menu of like a New York deli. Like anything you wanted was on it. Chicken fried rice, tacos, egg rolls, spaghetti bolognese, anything you wanted, they had in this tiny little cart.
Whatever was in the freezer section of Costco that morning was going to be on the menu.
Listen, dude, you might be way overestimating their source for food.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. Whatever
was being thrown away by Costco.
Whatever was in the dumpster at the meat packing plant that week. You know who? It's funny because, bringing up Scott again, to this day, I can tell you what he would order at that. And then I can tell you what he get at Taco Bell, which is like a tostada, extra cheese, and a bean burrito with no onions. I mean, how difficult do you have to be to have a specialty order at Taco Bell?
You know, he is a great culinary appreciator of the stranger options, because the other thing I remember about Scott was he liked to go to Long John Silver's.
I forgot.
And he would just get the cracklins.
What is it called? The little crunchy bits.
He would call them the cracklins.
He would.
I don't know what that.
He would order an extra. I don't know how to describe it. So you know the batter that falls off of battered fish and just turns into fried stuff. It's just
fried stuff.
It's just fried batter, and he would get extra of that. Yeah. How is he alive? How is he alive to this day? Oh my
I would
God.
love to see somebody trying to ring that up at the register.
It's like, yeah. It's like, where's this? Where's the button for this? Like, dude, just get him out of here. But that stuff was so crazy.
It's so bad.
Those carts were like, it was such a cheap way to eat.
Yeah.
You know, and you could just be on your way to class and do it. And I really miss them. Like, I go back around UT now, and they're nowhere to be seen.
I was wondering about that because I've driven by and I haven't seen them in the longest time either.
Yeah.
But they have like real restaurants in there now. They have like Chick-fil-A and stuff like that.
Yeah, for a long time when we were at UT, they weren't allowed to have like actual franchises of
brand restaurants,
quote unquote real restaurants. Yeah, but now they have it, and now they have that at the airport in Austin too. Don't worry, we're not going to talk about the Austin airport. You know what I'm doing tomorrow before I leave for Scotland?
I don't know.
I am going to get the blue mural from Rooster Teeth. I was able to get that. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
I'm going to be storing it at a friend's studio for a while.
Oh, really?
Where the hell else am I going to store that thing?
Yeah, it's enormous.
It's enormous.
That's really cool.
It's enormous.
That's a fun Austin thing too, because Blue Genie, who made that, is still around and doing their
Rory was
Christmas,
the artist who made that, right?
Yeah. Christmas art fairs that they do and all that kind of stuff. So my son recently, one of them, has felt like we're not doing enough Austin things anymore. We're not into Austin culture enough. So we're trying to get back into doing more Austin-y types of things, which I think just means eating cheeseburgers at the Alamo.
Right. You're going to play the bongos naked like McConaughey. Yeah. What is an Austin event into 2024?
I don't know. Like when they were little, we used to go to do the kite festival, and we would do all that stuff.
There's an old RTA about Teddy almost choking a dude out with a kite string. He let it go.
Oh no! It wrapped around somebody's neck.
It wrapped clean around his neck, dude. Like, I couldn't have imagined. I saw that, by the way. I saw San Francisco PD. Sometimes on the podcast, we like to talk about current news too, as like tangents. Usually we talk about current events, and then the tangents are stories like us. But I figured this would be mostly tangents today. San Francisco PD now has a new non-lethal capture device that they're going to use as an alternative to tasers. And what it is, it looks like a taser, and they fire it at you, and it's like a bolo, like that just wraps around you, kind of like Boba Fett.
And it's made of cracklins?
They've got that. And then they force feed you chicken fried rice from a cart on Guadalupe. Yeah.
A bolo that wraps around you like Boba Fett.
Yeah, but it's odd though, because it also has fish hooks. So I think it actually
has fish hooks?
Yeah, I think it like grabs onto your skin too.
Jesus.
So it's non-lethal, or as they now say, less lethal. They don't say non-lethal.
Less lethal?
Well, non-lethal seems like a commitment.
Some lawyer was like, you know what? Let's just take out this non part of this. Somewhat lethal. How's that sound?
What a great world we live in. It's so great.
Lawyers pass it off to marketing, and it goes back and forth.
Can I get some business advice from you?
Nope.
Because we worked together for a really long time, right?
Well,
I had a really interesting thing come up with with Scott being on.
For everybody listening, he's got a straight face at the moment. So we'll see where this goes.
So my business question is, how do you fire a friend? Just, he's not an employee. You just got to, how do you get rid of a friend?
I never figured it out, so don't ask me.
But, so Scott came on and he talked about this. He talked about a lot of his, we decided to call them fringe theories as opposed to conspiracy theories, because not all of them are conspiracies.
That makes them more palatable.
What do you listen, you're balking at the 9/11, right? Because of the topic.
Of course.
His cherry on top was that the moon is not a natural body.
Uh-huh.
It's constructed and it's hollow on the inside. It's an observation platform.
I've heard this one before.
Have you?
What is that? There's a name for that theory. right?
Yeah, it's
That
called
the moon is
lunacy. It's like literally.
That's what they kind of riffed off of that idea for that movie, right? What the
Interesting you would bring that up
okay?
because I've been thinking a lot about that over the course of the weekend. Two things. First of all, the comments for this episode on Reddit were, no joke, about 10x the amount of comments that we usually get
I believe
for
it.
an episode. And none of the comments, I would say they're not negative, but they're not positive. They're unpositive. Like there's a lot of people who are like debunking everything Scott was saying.
Yeah.
Then there's a really smaller portion saying Bree didn't give him enough time to explain, you know? So both sides.
That's Scott.
You get you get both sides. But it was like so much more engagement. And I haven't seen the view numbers on it. Ash will tell me when I get back, how many episode downloads we had. But I assume it'll be higher as well. And people will go back and listen to it a lot. Because we were talking about, remember Terrence Howard and his new math he has?
I don't know anything about that, but I saw that he had some weird conspiracy theory on a podcast or something.
But you did see it, right?
I don't know what it is.
It's all about his new math that he came up with. And it's lunacy, dude. And we talked about it on Friday, so I don't want to go too much into it. But nobody can say off the top of their head who the Joe Rogan guest was before Terrence Howard or after.
Yeah.
But this one, it's just like, it's controversial, so it flew. So what I'm getting at here is, if I was a computer algorithm, I would say, oh, here's something that this audience really likes. Clearly, they want to engage with this. They want more of this. And that's the way those algorithms work.
Yeah.
But as a human, I know not to do that. It's this debate of, do you want more or do you want good? Like, do you want it to be a good experience?
Or do you want it curated by a person
right.
or amplified by a machine?
Yeah. You can ignore that.
Your dildo is flashing.
I know. It's my timer, our like, our thing that
When I got here,
that's
Bernie,
my AI producer. 3 lights.
we got here. He didn't tell me what it was. He just brought out a giant flashing dildo and said, "We're going to use this."
Not at all. Not at all. Here's the other thing too.
Take a picture of it. You got like a Discord or something, right?
Yeah. We can put it. We have a linked up for every episode. So what I've got here, it's a tool that keeps us on task. It's got a green light, a yellow light, and a red light, right? And when the green light stays on, we're all good.
Okay.
When the yellow light comes on, it means you got 5 minutes left. And the red light is like
I'm getting the hook.
It's like the safe word. It's like so you know to stop. That's what that is. But it looks dildo-esque, I would say.
Yeah.
I would say so. But another thing that came up with this. So you and I dealt with this a lot in our careers, our entertainment careers, especially as we moved into more digital online stuff.
Okay.
Which is just, do you chase that algorithm all the time? Or do you have faith? Like, you just do the things that you want to do, make content you want to see, and just have faith there's enough people out there that want to see it as well.
Nothing makes sense anymore.
It makes less, for sure.
I think what you guys are doing is great, and what Jeff's doing is great. And it seems like y'all are both following the path of, I just want to make what I want to make and I'm going to put it out. Right. Because you're not really chasing algorithm based platforms so much, right?
Not at all.
I think that's great. I would just, I think that the entertainment industry as a whole is just so messed up.
I mean, I'd be making conspiracy theory episodes every week now if that was the case, because clearly, it's controversy and it'll go places and people will be interested in it.
Yeah,
and I know that stuff works. It's just like I don't want to make that kind of stuff that makes people mad.
No,
it's not why I'm doing it. The other thing is, and this is another thing we face as well, like the crackpot conspiracy theories. If you talk about them, like the moon is fake and it's an observational platform for ancient humans to look at us, because I guess they didn't want to live on Earth anymore. They just wanted to look at us live on Earth. Anyway, when you say it, it's like, I believe that's the case. Then you're like, this guy sounds crazy. Or in the case of some people in the comments are like, this is dangerous to talk about this.
Yeah. It's so weird because I can't ever figure out what percentage of people who promote crackpot kind of conspiracy stuff actually believe in it. And what percentage of people are just kind of like doing it for shits and giggles?
One of the other things I want to come back around, loop back around. This is all in my head right now.
Okay.
And I need this advice from you. So this is a thing too. It's like you talk about like what everyone is doing post Rooster Teeth, and it is all the podcast personality stuff,
Which is fine.
No, which is great. It's something that we leaned into a lot more, especially in the later years of Rooster Teeth. But like I was thinking about too, like it's interesting because you brought up the moon is hollow movie. Like no one would get mad at that movie, right?
Right.
What I'm saying is if you want to have that thought experiment, it's kind of funny because if you go on a podcast and you say like, I want to talk freely about like, what if the moon was not a natural satellite and explore all the parts of that? Then you're like, you're crazy and you're dangerous. If you make a movie where you have it from the perspective of the people watching this from the moon or someone discovers that, then it's just a silly sci-fi romp, right?
Yeah.
Like the narrative stuff, the scripted stuff is always a safe way to like present really weird ideas. And it doesn't have the same weight or it doesn't have the same amount of aggression as the personality driven content. I don't know. That's just on my mind right now.
Yeah. Well, when I tell people I don't believe in COVID, they have a problem with that. But when my movie comes out,
you don't believe in COVID?
No, it never happened.
It wasn't even a
It
thing.
didn't happen. Well, it never, none of it. It was all fake. But when my movie comes out, then people are going to love that. Really, that movie's already come out. I mean, do you think like a lot of the conspiracy stuff is because you've already been fed that in some kind of way in the past, right? Because there've been so many movies about, or like The Stand, a virus getting out of a lab, and it was man-made,
Yeah, Outbreak
crazy.
was another one.
And then the government had, some kind of financial interest in keeping it going or whatever, political interest, all that stuff, you see all those things in movies and TV in some kind of way that's kind of oblique from what reality turns out to be later.
Yeah.
But I think, do you think a lot of those conspiracy theories just come from like they've already, the germ of the idea has already been seeded.
Right. Or people equate it to media, right? Like when
That's what I
COVID
mean,
hit, for whatever reason, Plague Incorporated went to number 1 on the App Store for people wanting to play it. It's like you're living
Right.
it. Why
You're
would you,
living it. Yeah.
People just a lot of people's experiences come from media, so they can draw from that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I learned from COVID that Hollywood lied to me about.
Oh boy.
Hollywood lied to me that like when there's like a monkey gets out and there's an infection in a small town, what happens to the small town?
Are they alternative to monkeys?
Monkey gets out of the lab, it's got the virus. The
Yeah.
people start to get the virus.
Everybody starts bleeding out their nose. I remember that.
Government finds
always
out about it.
happens. Yep.
And they're a crack
Government.
team of scientists shows up, locks the place down because they're not going to let this get out. And they've been waiting for this moment
Yep.
and they're prepared for it.
Yep.
And if everything goes wrong, they're going to nuke the town or something like that.
Yeah.
It's always some dire thing they have to race because the government is so over prepared for this
Yeah.
that, they've just been waiting for this moment. And they have the tubes and the suits and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Horseshit. We had a fucking plague and they were like, masks, PPE, what? We didn't need what? Who could have envisioned we would have needed these things you need for every illness? The CDC didn't know this. God, it's so ridiculous, dude. What were they waiting for?
The movie that you're thinking about, I'm pretty sure, is that one with Morgan Freeman, right?
Dustin Hoffman.
Outbreak?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the name of the movie?
Yeah.
And to me, this just goes to show.
And Marcel the monkey. Don't forget him.
You need Morgan Freeman. If the government in real life had Morgan Freeman during COVID, everybody would have been like, this is cool. He's got it under control. He'll take care of it. He's going to take care of it. He's Morgan Freeman.
Everybody stay inside. I can't. It's my best Morgan Freeman I can do. Can you do Morgan Freeman? All right. Well, how you been? Is there anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to hint you got in the works or anything like that?
We haven't promoted Red versus Blue Restoration. I feel like that's why I should.
I did like a week and a half of it on my podcast, but go ahead. I even did another commentary.
Yeah, I haven't been here. You did a whole other commentary?
I did.
Really?
I did all the.
I should do a commentary.
Remember during the director's commentary?
Yeah.
In between Jeff and Gus telling stories about Will Wheaton at conventions for some reason.
I zone out, honestly.
I
think they're gonna. If anybody sees the video of that, they just pan over to me. They're just dead eyes.
I wanted to do a commentary that was just all the throwbacks, like all the references. So I tried to do that, and that was for our Patreon. I did that commentary.
Oh, walked through all the things that we put in the.
Very specifically, that was the goal. Yeah, and also to promote our end of our 21-year web series that we made together.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Well, if you haven't seen it, go see it. I think it's good.
RVB Restoration should be available for rental in digital. I say digital. Does anybody rent physical anymore? Is that even a thing? I guess.
I don't know.
Does Netflix even have discs anymore?
I don't think so.
No, probably long gone.
Quickster. Remember Quickster?
No, what's that?
You don't remember Quickster?
No.
Oh wow.
So many have come and gone, Matt. So many.
Do you remember? Like I said, Netflix at one point decided they were gonna get rid of their DVD business.
Yeah.
And then everybody went, "No, you can't get rid of your DVD business."
Like everyone else in the industry. Yeah.
And then they said, "Okay, we're not going to get rid of it. We're going to make a separate business called Quickster."
Netflix did.
Yeah.
And they spun it off.
And they started to.
And then it died.
I think they started that, and then like everybody forgot about it, and then they just like said, "No, this is gone. Never mind." This isn't Netflix, but there was another service called, I think it was called Kazoo.
What the fuck? Did you use every subscription service?
It wasn't subscription. It was a delivery service, and I was living in LA at the time.
Okay.
So they would deliver like a very small supply of different like foods and alcohol and like things that you could get in a convenience store, basically. And then they would also deliver movies because it was pre-Netflix.
Sounds like Pink Dot, yeah.
Pre-streaming. And there was one weekend, I remember I was sick. I had the flu or something. And so I ordered a ton of stuff from then. And it was like a lifesaver because I couldn't, go out. And I was alone at the time. And they brought two movies.
I thought you were saying you ordered lifesavers.
I probably did. I got two movies. I want to say one of them was Zoolander. I'm not sure if the timing is right on that or not. But it was something like that, like a Ben Stiller movie.
Sure.
Like Ben Stiller.
That would work.
And then the weekend I had it, that service went out of business.
Oh.
So I just had the movies. So that was it. Like if Blockbuster had gone out of business the weekend that you rented a movie, and then you just have the Blockbuster movies because Blockbuster is gone. You can't return it.
What do you think Blockbuster did with all those tapes? Like, did they just sell them off?
I don't know.
Collectors?
I don't know. I guess people were they still they were still using DVD players and whatever they would have had back then.
Yeah, but even the tapes, like over time, I guess they all probably just wore out over time, especially those rental ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's still one Blockbuster left.
In Alaska or something? Or Seattle?
Oregon or something? Yeah, it's in the Pacific Northwest somewhere. Yeah. Maybe somewhere up there.
You know what the funniest thing to me is?
Yeah.
Netflix did that Blockbuster show. There was a show, I think, about the last Blockbuster.
Oh, really?
And then they canceled it.
Did they really? That is hilarious.
It's like, they were just doing it only to screw with Blockbuster.
That's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
That's like the meme of like Netflix could do the funniest thing ever.
Yeah,
right now.
It pretty much is.
All right. Well, Matt, thank you for joining us.
Well, I had a lovely time.
Maybe now you will
fine
listen
people.
to this podcast.
Listener, I appreciate you having me. And I hope to be one of you someday.
All right. Well, that does it for us today. I will be back to talk to you tomorrow with another special guest. I hope you will be here as well. Bye, Matt.
Okay.